Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Jesse's Card Empire. It's your host Jesse, as always. We got another EDH deck tech for you coming today. This is a deck that I haven't built yet, but it came to me as like this spark of inspiration, this epiphany, which is generally like one of my favorite things to get. Like when you just like you see a card and you go, I want to make an entire deck around that, and then everything just kind of like clicks into place automatically. So I'm very confident in this build, and I will actually probably build this in paper because it looks like a ton of fun. Um, so without further ado, let's start getting into the deck tech. And who are we deck teching today? We are deck teching the Dominaria box topper exclusive Firesong and Sunspeaker. So the kind of like issue we already have out the door is this card was only available if you bought a box of Dominaria. However, nobody plays it anywhere other than Commander, so the price is pretty low. You can pick single copies up right now for just shy of like $2. So that is fantastic. So we got a nice cheap Commander. Firesong and Sunspeaker themselves are, of course, Minotaurs. And for those of you who don't know, Minotaurs are like low key one of my favorite tribes in Magic. I'm a Taurus. But also, like, I don't know. I just like Minotaurs. I just like angry cow people. Um, so I actually have Sethron built in paper as well, and I'll deck tech that probably on a future week here because I do enjoy that deck. But this is a way to play one of the Minotaurs I can't play. So that is one way to get one of the few Minotaurs that I can't play in my Sethron because it's Rakdos and Firesong and Sunspeaker are Boros colored. But you for 4 and a red white, you get a Minotaur Cleric 4/6 that has red instant and sorcery spells you control have lifelink, and whenever a white instant or sorcery spell causes you to gain life, Firesong and Sunspeaker deals 3 damage to target creature or player. So, we have our commander, Firesong and Sunspeaker. At this point, how do we abuse him? How do we take his ability and make it better? Where I came up with is a simple 2-part plan. The first half of the plan is the red plan. The red plan focuses on massive area of effect burn damage. Cards like Blasphemous Act, the Quake spells, like Earthquake, Rolling Earthquake, or Magma Quake, Star of Extinction. These massive burn spells that hit all creatures are going to gain you huge gobs of life. However, there's more to it than that. We can push it even further by stacking it up. And how do we stack it up? Well, red has a slew of enchantments and creatures that let you double or triple the damage done by your red spells and red sources. Things like Dictate of the Twin Gods, which gives this ability to everyone on any damage. However, it does have flash, so you can wait to play it out till it's most optimal for you during maybe an opponent's end step right before your turn begins. Also, Furnace of Wrath, Angrath's Marauders, Fiery Emancipation, Fire Servant, Torbrand, Fane of Redfell. These are all great ways to increase the damage coming out of your red spells. So, now you're gaining even more life because you're dealing all this damage to all the creatures. But you're dealing a ton of damage to creatures, not your opponents. So how do we weaponize this? Well, we got to redirect it to the dome. And our redirection package is cards like Stuffy Doll, Brash Taunter, Boros Reckoner, Spite-Mare. And also Torolf, God of Fury from the new set. His excess damage can really go crazy with like a Fiery Emancipation and a Brash Taunter. Since Brash Taunter only has 1 damage, and let's say you have something that deals 3 to Brash Taunter, you're going to get to keep assigning that damage, and then when the excess damage gets reassigned to something else, in this case you reassign it to, say, Stuffy Doll, then that doesn't kill the Stuffy Doll, so you bounce the damage back and forth, and it keeps going up infinitely, because every time the damage gets redirected, Fiery Emancipation triples it up again. So this damage just keeps bouncing back and forth between Stuffy Doll and Brash Taunter, to where you end up burning out all of your opponents there on the spot. One of several little infinite combos in here. The other one that I'm quite a fan of, and I actually discovered this combo while I was making this deck, because I realized the card interaction, so I actually swapped out, I cut the Commander staple, who's a little too slow at this point, Solemn Simulacrum. I mean, we are in Boros, we could use the ramp, but I really wanted to get this combo in there, and in my opinion, this was the best card to cut, and that is, I put in Zada Hedron Grinder. Now, Zada, we all know his combo potential, but what I want to do is take his combo potential to the maximum. So how do we do that? Well, first thing we do, slowly build a board full of creatures. We don't have a ton. We're only playing 16 creatures. Most of them, though, already have a redirect ability, and the other ones play off of each other. You can, of course, check out the full deck list in the link in the description. But what we do is we establish Zada, then we cast Arc Bond. Arc Bond is a 2 and a red for an instant that says choose target creature. Whenever that creature is dealt damage this turn, it deals that much damage to each other creature and each player. Okay? So then, with Zada, suddenly you target Zada, and this with Arc Bond, and then this copies to every other one of your creatures. Okay. Then you play something that gives everything indestructible, like Flawless Maneuver. If you have Firesong and Sunspeaker out, you get to cast it for free. Now all your stuff has indestructible, and whenever you cast anything that targets Zada, it's going to get copied. So then any of your big damage spells that are one single target can go on Zada and go to everything, or you can just play one of your large wraths, like Star of Extinction, like a Rolling Earthquake, like a Blasphemous Act. Suddenly all that damage just goes everywhere. You're going to be gaining some of it back as life to hopefully prevent yourself from dying in this crazy combo. So hopefully you come out on the other side of it and your opponents are all burnt to a crisp. However, do be careful, do the math, because it deals this damage to each other creature and each player. So then what happens is, since all your stuff is arc bonded, it just goes infinite instantaneously, because you deal, let's say you deal 3 damage to Zada, okay? But Zada is indestructible, and and your whole team is arc bonded. Then Zada is going to deal 3 damage to every other creature and each player. Your creatures will then deal 3 damage. Each of them will deal 3 damage to each other creature and each player, including yourself. And you see this, how this infinitely stacks up until somebody dies. Hopefully, though, You can gain enough life before you go for this combo that when you do it, your opponents die before this infinite burn combo kills you. However, there are ways it can go wrong. It's not without its risks, but I think it's a very fun, really cool way to win the game. So, we mentioned playing cards that make your stuff indestructible. That's actually a very important package in this deck, because not only do we want to be able to, in that instance, maybe be able to turn some of our redirectors that are not indestructible. The only two that have it naturally are Stuffy Doll and Brash Taunter. We have like 4 other ones, like with the Boros Reckoner, the Spite Mare, True Fire Captain, cards like those. They get to redirect, but they die. So giving them indestructibility or putting indestructibility on Firesong and Sunspeaker is very important. So we're running the enchantment, indestructibility. You just aura enchant, things indestructible. Perfect, let's go. Also, Shielded by Faith is fantastic. Again, enchant a creature. Enchant a creature has indestructible, but also, when a creature enters the battlefield, you may attach Shielded by Faith to that creature, so you get to move it around, which I am quite a fan of. And then also, out of the new Boros Commander deck from Commander Legends, Timely Ward. This card is only available in that deck, so either order one online, or if you've already picked up a copy of that deck and you want to play Boros, but you don't want to play the normal, like, one of 3 ways that you build Boros, this is a really cool alternative. But again, you may cast this spell as though it had flash. If it targets a commander, enchant creature, enchanted creature is indestructible. So, you get to have a way to protect Firesong and Sunspeaker when you also want to dumpster out huge amounts of damage onto the board to gain a bunch of life off of Firesong and Sunspeaker, and then in turn also burn out your opponents. What else? Another one that's fantastic. We have Test of Endurance. We have Boros Charm, Flawless Maneuver, Dark Steel Plate. Like, there's going to be many, many ways to make sure that your opponent's stuff your stuff doesn't get destroyed. Also, I said Test of Endurance there. That is incorrect. I've put that card in the wrong category. I thought it was a invulnerability, but it's actually one of our alternate win cons, which we will get to right now. In the category, so you've gained about 1 million life. So let's say you don't get one of your combos that lets you end the game, or you can't, your opponents exile your Stuffy Doll, they exile your Brash Taunter, and those like effects. We still have another backup way. We can win off of our tremendous amount of life gain. The quickest one, the easiest one, is Test of Endurance. It's a 4 mana, 2 white enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 50 or more life, you win the game. Cool. It was built for a time before Commander, where you'd be starting at 20 life, so that was actually a really good feat to pull off. In Commander, though, it's a bit broken. We also have the ever-present, ever-popular, ever-classic Felidar Sovereign. For 4 white, you get a 4/6 Vigilance lifelinking Cat Beast. And at the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 40 or more life, you win the game. So this one, as long as you can gain enough life and then your opponent's damaging you, just still keep you like a point or 2 above, your starting health total, this can just straight up win you the game. So also, especially when the game goes long, you gain a bunch of life and your opponents are down, they're out of removal, then you just stick Felidar Sovereign, and what are they gonna do? Finally, my favorite one is Aetherflux Reservoir. we are going to be gaining huge gobs of life pretty consistently. We're going to be, jamming out all sorts of really powerful, effects that are, and then chaining, spells together to do all sorts of crazy things. Aetherflux Reservoir is going to be there for the whole thing, gaining us life, seeing us gain life, and then once we have huge gobs of life, if we just can't quite close out the game, we just start Death Star lasering people out of the game. 50 life to 50 damage, get target player out of the game, sure. Ain't nothing they're going to be doing about that. And we're going to be at a point where, hopefully, paying 50 life isn't a big deal. Like, 50 life is going to be like chump change. So, that is the hopeful goal, especially when you get things like, Dictate of the Twin Gods, Fiery Emancipation, Star of Extinction, with, Firesong and Sunspeaker out. Let's just say there's 10 creatures on the board. No planeswalkers, just 10 creatures. That's going to get doubled and then tripled, so that's going to go to 40. And then that's going to be 120 damage to each creature times 10. Then we will casually have, 1,200 life off of just that. Getting a handful of these damage increasing effects together, and then casting something big like Star of Extinction or Blasphemous Act is just going to gain us huge gobs of life on a very big board state. Like, the more stuff your opponents have, the better this gets, because you're just going to wrath away all their stuff with raw damage, and then you're going to gain, like, a whole lot of life. So the win cons are definitely either burning your opponents out or taking all that life you gain and weaponizing it to win the game. So those are the ways we win the game. Those are kind of what the deck's trying to do. There's other really cool techs in here. There is some cards that you really just don't get to see played, which is one of the reasons why I like this a lot. You have a lot of big instants and sorceries that are very expensive. Things like Star of Extinction and things of that nature. Blasphemous Act. Now, Blasphemous Act does reduce its cost itself, but I really like Wildfire Eternal in here. Basically, if they block it, they take 4. But if they don't, they only take 1, and then I get to cast an instant or sorcery from my hand without paying its mana cost. So getting to, turn 5, a Star of Extinction seems pretty good. We also are running Double Vision, which is a card I am a huge proponent of. So just continuously copying your instants and sorceries that are massive damage dealers, and just getting to double up on effects like that is really, really good. So yeah, no, I really like this. The other, another couple cards that I want to touch on real quick that don't really fit into any category, but also just do really cool things, is Satyr Fire Dancer. Whenever an instant or sorcery spell you control deals damage to an opponent, Satyr Fire Dancer deals that much damage to target creature or that player controls. So it lets you turn any of the damage that you send face off of, say, a Price of Progress. Then you also get to shoot down a creature that your opponents control. Not that when this deck starts popping off, your opponents are going to have a ton of creatures, but this is an early game interaction. It's a 2-mana 1/1, so it helps keep the game tied together. The other thing that is hella crazy is Stormwild Caprador. If non-combat damage would be dealt to Stormwild Caprador, prevent that damage and put a +1/+1 counter on it for each 1 damage prevented this way. And then it's also casually a 1/3 with flying. You can see how that's going to gain a ton of counters after just 1, heavy board sweeper or thing like that. Storm's Wrath, okay, it's now a 5/7 flyer. Those are good stat lines. Granted, it doesn't have any protection or anything, but it's also a 3-mana 1/3. So you can grow it into something big. And then the final card I want to touch on is Chandra's Incinerator. It's a 6 mana 6/6 with trample, but it costs X less to cast, where X is the total amount of non-combat damage dealt to your opponents this turn. So you can very easily burn your opponents for 5 in this deck. So then you get a 1 mana 6/6 with trample that also gives you, when a source you control deals non-combat damage to opponent, Chandra's Incinerator deals that much damage to target creature or planeswalker that player controls. So again, just like the Satyr Fire Dancer, a way to turn the damage that you send to your opponent's face as a way to also hit their creatures. So if you send one of your big burn spells into your Stuffy Doll, and then you deal that damage to your opponent, then Chandra's Incinerator gets to take that damage and deal it to one of their creatures as well. What else? Oh yeah, I said that's the last thing. There's no real lands to cover in the deck. The mana base, for the most part, is just a red-white mana base. Again, you can check it out in the description. There are a couple utility lands that I think are, you should be running, since you don't really have any other slots that you're trying to fill up for anything else. The big one being Arcane Lighthouse. Getting rid of Hexproof and Shroud is going to be really important for targeting your opponent's stuff with, your burn spells. So, other than that, not too much to specify on the deck. Again, I will be building this in paper. You can check out the full deck list in the link below. Also linked below is my TCG Player store. If you like what I do here and you want to support me, that's the current way to do it, because you're going to buy singles. Might as well check my shop, see if I have the single you are looking for. And hey, I will see you next week with yet another deck tech, but that's going to be the video. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time. Peace.